You're welcome.
Krishna, everyone. Thank you very much for coming to this week's Krishna Fest. Tonight we have our own, a nice member of our congregation and devotees here at the temple. We have Hasyagrammy Prabhu, who's going to be giving class. Hasyagrammy has been a devotee here for many years, and he also, along with being a very nice devotee, very learned in Krishna consciousness, he's also got a degree in psychology. So we say that, everything becomes very, very increased in value when you dovetail in Krishna's service. So he's very good about doing that. So welcome, Hasyagrammy Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Getting connected here.
Yes, now they can hear me online. Alright, nice to have you all here tonight. Nice to be here tonight. So we'll sing Jaya Radha Madhava, then we'll hear a little on Bhagavad Gita tonight. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivanadari Gopijana Vallabha Girivanadari Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Bhagavatam ki jai. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Okay, so tonight we'll be discussing one shloka from Bhagavad Gita. We'll move a little bit into Bhagavatam too as well. So, before we begin reading from the Bhagavad Gita, take a minute to offer our prayers and respects to Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, so we'll be reading from the Bhagavad Gita. We're reading from 9th chapter, text number 26. Yes, 26. Okay, so this is a shloka that many people are familiar with. It's a famous shloka in Gita. So this is Krishna speaking here. Patram pushpam phalam toyam yome bhakta prayachati tadaham bhakti uparitam ashnami prayat tatmanaha. So I'll read the translation, and I'll read Srila Prabhupada's purport. If one offers me with love and devotion a leaf, a flower, fruit, or water, I will accept it. So we'll hear Srila Prabhupada's purport here. For the intelligent person, it is essential to be in Krishna consciousness, engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, in order to achieve a permanent blissful abode for eternal happiness. The process of achieving such a marvelous result is very easy and can be attempted by even the poorest of the poor without any kind of qualification. The only qualification required in this connection is to be a pure devotee of the Lord. It does not matter what one is or where one is situated. The process is so easy that even a leaf or a little water or fruit can be offered to the Supreme Lord in genuine love, and the Lord will be pleased to accept it. No one, therefore, can be barred from Krishna consciousness, because it is so easy and universal. Who is such a fool that he does not want to be Krishna conscious by this simple method, and thus attain the highest perfectional life of eternity, bliss, and knowledge? Krishna wants only loving service and nothing more. Krishna accepts even a little flower from his pure devotee. He does not want any kind of offering from a non-devotee. He is not in need of anything from anyone, because he is self-sufficient, and yet he accepts the offering of his devotee in exchange of love and affection. To develop Krishna consciousness is the highest perfection of life. Bhakti is mentioned twice in this verse in order to declare more emphatically that bhakti, or devotional service, is the only means to approach Krishna. No other condition, such as becoming a brahmana, a learned scholar, a very rich man, or a great philosopher, can induce Krishna to accept some kind of offering. Without the basic principle of bhakti, nothing can induce the Lord to agree to accept anything from anyone. Bhakti is never causal. The process is eternal. It is direct action in service to the absolute whole. Here Lord Krishna, having established that he is the only enjoyer, the primeval Lord, and the real object of all sacrificial offerings, reveals what types of sacrifices he desires to be offered. If one wishes to engage in devotional service to the Supreme in order to be purified and to reach the goal of life, the transcendental loving service of God, then one should find out what the Lord desires of him. One who loves Krishna will give him whatever he wants, and he avoids offering anything which is undesirable or unasked. Thus, meat, fish, and eggs should not be offered to Krishna. If he desired such things as offerings, he would have said so. Instead, he clearly requests that a leaf, fruit, flowers, or water be given to him, and he says of this offering, "I will accept it." Therefore, we should understand that he will not accept meat, fish, and eggs. Vegetables, grains, fruits, milk, and water are the proper foods for the human beings and are prescribed by Lord Krishna himself. Whatever else we eat cannot be offered to him, since he will not accept it. Thus we cannot be acting on the level of loving devotion if we offer such foods. In the 3rd chapter, verse 13, Sri Krishna explains that only the remnants of sacrifice are purified and fit for consumption for those who are seeking advancement in life and release from the clutches of material entanglement. Those who do not make an offering of their food, he says in the same verse, are eating only sin. In other words, their every mouthful is simply deepening their involvement in the complexities of material nature. But preparing nice, simple vegetable dishes, offering them before the deity, for the picture or the deity of Lord Krishna, and bowing down and praying for him to accept such a humble offering enables one to advance steadily in life, to purify the body, and to create fine brain tissues which will lead to clear thinking. Above all, the offering should be made with an attitude of love. Krishna has no need of food, since he already possesses everything that be. Yet he will accept the offering of one who desires to please him in that way. The important element in preparation in serving an offering is to act with love for Krishna. The impersonalist philosophers who wish to maintain that the absolute truth is without senses cannot comprehend this verse of the Bhagavad Gita. To them, it is either a metaphor or a proof of the mundane character of Krishna, the speaker of the Bhagavad Gita. But in actuality, Krishna, the Supreme Godhead, has senses, and it is stated that his senses are interchangeable. In other words, one sense can perform the function of any other. This is what it means to say that Krishna is absolute. Lacking senses, he could hardly be considered full in all opulences. In the 7th chapter, Krishna has explained that he impregnates living entities into material nature. This is done by his looking on upon material nature. And so in this instance, Krishna's hearing and the devotee's words of love and offering foodstuff is wholly identical with his eating and actually tasting. This point should be emphasized. Because of his absolute position, his hearing is wholly identical with his eating and tasting. Only the devotee who accepts Krishna as he describes himself without interpretation can understand that the Supreme Absolute Truth, can eat food and enjoy it. So let's take a minute to offer my prayers to my spiritual master here. Om Agyanat Randasya Yananjana Shalakaya Chakshun Mritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the dark vineyards, and my spiritual master is opening my eyes to the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. Okay, I'll just read the translation again, then I'll give a little explanation here. Okay. If one offers me with love and devotion a leaf, a flower, fruit, or water, I will accept it. Okay. So, this is a nice verse by Krishna here, kind of giving us easy access into the beginnings of Bhakti Yoga. It's said in one shloka that devotional service to Krishna, it begins with the tongue. Sevan mukhehi jiva dao. That these two activities that the tongue is used for, the tongue speaks and the tongue tastes. So the idea is that by engaging these propensities in Krishna consciousness, one begins to realize Krishna, specifically by chanting the Harekrishna Maha Mantra or shlokas, and tasting Krishna Prasadam, that we gradually come to the full realization of Krishna, Supreme Absolute Truth. So this verse here particularly is on Prasadam, but actually one really important point in this verse is this idea of bhakti. Why is Krishna accepting this food? Srila Prabhupada mentions in the purport that the word, bhaktya or bhakti is used in this verse in the Sanskrit twice. It's used for extra emphasis. That Krishna, this is what he's looking for in an offering. He's not looking for some very nice food, although that's what we should offer, but he's not looking for some very nice food. He's looking that it's offered with love. And there's various examples of this. Kind of two that I could think of. Actually, one that I could... It's two kind of stories that I could think of. One is that Krishna, he went to visit Duryodhan, not kind of a nasty person. And from what I remember, Duryodhan offered Krishna a very elaborate feast. But he had some duplicitous motives. The motive wasn't just to please Krishna, just to please Krishna. The motive is I'm going to get something out of Krishna. But at the same time, Krishna he refused his meal there, and he went to eat at Vidura's house. And Vidura, he was not, although he was in a royal family, he was not necessarily in a as materially affluent a position as Duryodhan. And him and his wife were cooking very simple preparations for Krishna, and Krishna he accepted over there, whereas in Duryodhan's house he didn't. There's also another example. This comes at the end of the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, where similar situation, but Krishna, he was visiting one city with some sages, and he went to two gentlemen's houses. Now, one of the gentlemen happened to be the king of the area, and one gentleman happened to be a very poor brahmana in the area. And Krishna, he accepted the foodstuffs at each of the devotees' house with equal relish, because each of the devotees, they were offering them the food with love. You know, the king, according to his position, he offered Krishna very nice foodstuffs and all sorts of, very elaborate sitting place, and all that kind of thing. But the poor brahmana, offering Krishna like straw mat and, simple food. But Krishna, he was equally pleased with each of them. So Krishna, he's really looking for the love in the offering, So what is this like love? It's kind of a very vague term, people probably spend all sorts of time defining it and all sorts of things. But I think actually Prabhupada, he explains it very nicely here in kind of a sentence here. One who loves okay, so I'll read Prabhupada says, and I'll explain a bit here. It says, one who loves Krishna will give him whatever he wants, and he avoids offering him anything which is undesirable or unasked. So one sense, this love for Krishna is shown by our desire to please him. So for a general healthy, sane adult, then they can tell someone, what pleases them and what doesn't please them. So Krishna, Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is explaining actually what is pleasing to him and what is not pleasing to him. So the devotee, actually, the aspiring devotee, should actually take the time to study, to learn what pleases Krishna and what doesn't please Krishna. Okay, we can, here in this verse, we're simply talking about food. It's pretty simple. I go get the vegetarian food and I offer to Krishna. It's a little, at least the rules are kind of somewhat simple. There's some prayers. It's not terribly complicated. But actually, the life of a devotee, there are so many rules and regulations to follow. And the rules and regulations, they are meant for this purpose of actually pleasing Krishna. So the devotee should actually take the time to study these things. Prabhupada has given us so many books. We have libraries of books. I think I heard him say one time that we have more books than you can read in a lifetime. Especially if you go into not only the books of Prabhupada, but the books that have been translated by nice devotees in ISKCON about the Goswami literature. It's like that. There's unlimited books to read in the Bhakti tradition, and it's a good thing. Good thing we can absorb ourselves in that. But kind of back to my main point here is that we want to we should want to actually study what are the rules and regulations, because these rules and regulations, they are all meant for pleasing Krishna. They aren't just arbitrary things. And that also these rules, they aren't exactly simply just to please Krishna. By doing these, we will also be pleased. There's a verse in the Bhagavad Gita, actually in 3rd chapter. I have it bookmarked here. I will read it. That explains this. So here, Krishna is here. It is said, in the beginning of creation, the Lord of all creatures sent forth generations of men and demigods, along with sacrifices for Vishnu, and blessed them by saying, be happy by this yajna, sacrifice, because its performance will bestow upon you everything desirable for living happily and achieving liberation. Okay. So I just read a little section of the purport here. The Prajapati is Lord Vishnu, and he is the Lord of all living creatures, all the worlds and all beauties, and the protector of everyone. The Lord created this material world to enable the conditioned souls to learn how to perform yajnas, sacrifices, for the sacrifice of Vishnu, so that while in this material world they can live very comfortably without anxiety, and after finishing the present material body, they can enter into the kingdom of God. That is the whole program for the conditioned soul. By the performance of yajna, the conditioned souls gradually become Krishna conscious and godly in all respects. In the age of Kali, the Sankirtan yajna, the chanting of the names of God, is recommended by the Vedic scriptures, and this transcendental system was introduced by Lord Chaitanya for the deliverance of all men in this age. Sankirtan yajna and Krishna consciousness go well together. Okay, I'll just read a little more bit. Lord Krishna in his devotional form as Lord Chaitanya is mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam 11th canto as follows, with special reference to the Sankirtan yajna. I'll just read the English here. In this age of Kali, people who are endowed with sufficient intelligence will worship the Lord, who is accompanied by his associates by the performance of Sankirtan yajna. Other yajnas prescribed in the Vedic literatures are not easy to perform in this age of Kali, but the Sankirtan yajna is easy and sublime for all purposes, as recommended in the Bhagavad Gita 9:14. So, kind of back to the point here, that these sacrifices for Vishnu, they are meant to please Krishna, but also by doing so, we will be pleased. We will become happy. That is the secret of this Bhakti Yoga philosophy, that we are all part and parcels of Krishna. I'm sure we've heard it a million times, those who have come to the temple. You know, we're all part and parcels of Krishna, and that by serving Krishna, we become happy. Actually, it's not like this isn't like a self-deprivation movement. That by actually giving everything to Krishna, we will actually gain everything. That is the greatest gain for us. So, kind of back to this idea of prasadam. One kind of important thing about this offering of foodstuffs is that even for somebody who maybe isn't ready or isn't ready to chant japa or something like that, isn't ready to maybe take to the process as committedly as others, this offering of foodstuffs gives one a daily connection with Krishna. You know, this was actually one of my first connections with Krishna myself. I think maybe even before I had a japa mala, I was offering food to Krishna, because some of our books, they kind of have a little instruction guide how to offer food to Krishna, you know, setting up kind of a home altar, you know. So this really creates this daily meditation on Krishna, this offering of foodstuffs, that the devotee has the serious devotee has the firm commitment that I shall not eat anything which is not offered to Krishna. You know, so this Srila Prabhupada mentions in the purport. So the serious devotee, he doesn't take meat, fish, or eggs because they cannot be offered to Krishna. But also the serious devotee, he does not even take vegetarian food that is not offered to Krishna. You know, the devotee wants to eat only foodstuffs which is offerable, and it is offered to Krishna. So this process of home worship kind of gives us a nice way to kind of start out with that. You know, also coming to the temple, it's easy, it's offered for you. You don't have to think about it. But also doing some practice of our own is also important. You know, it's very important. So another kind of point made in this purport here is about the impersonalists. It's kind of in the last section here. That the impersonalists, it doesn't kind of sit with them that the Lord has senses. You know, because generally in this world, the senses entail suffering. You know, okay, this feast coming up may be very nice, you know, but in order to really enjoy the feast, you have to be hungry. You know, it really isn't, especially if you're really hungry, it's not really a pleasant condition to be in, you know. And also, you eat too much of the feast, also going to be some problems. Similarly with hearing, it's very nice to hear nice kirtan or maybe nice music, but you can't turn the ears off. Maybe you can put in some good earplugs, but you really can't turn the ears off, you know, and then you have to hear traffic and so many other obnoxious noises, you know. All the senses, they come with some suffering, you know. Smell, I think everyone have smelled some obnoxious smells. You may see things you don't want to see, you know. all the senses, they come with some kind of sufferings. So the impersonalists, they get this idea that God, because he doesn't, they get this idea that God, he can't suffer like we do, so he can't have any senses, you know. He can't have any senses. But Krishna, as Prabhu mentions here, it would be kind of a limitation on Krishna to not have senses, you know, just like we like to take this nice prasadam, but Krishna can't take food. Krishna can't see nice things. Krishna can't do these things. No, so actually, Krishna, he has senses, but these senses are different than ours. These senses are on a different platform than ours. Krishna doesn't have to experience the negative consequences of our senses, you know, because Krishna knows how to use his senses perfectly. So another kind of point on this offering foodstuffs was this idea of gratitude. Something I kind of anyways, I saw this. I go on the internet sometimes, and I came across this kind of interesting thing on the internet. It's from a non-devotee source, but I thought this was kind of clever, you know. And it showed, you know, it was like a little comic, you know, and it showed this person. He was kind of like going through his everyday life, you know, and he was kind of like getting sick of it, you know. So like he's like, and it was, you know, the comic went on, you know, and the comic was saying, oh, sometimes people, they get into this idea, oh, if I travel, you know, then, you know, if I travel, go to a new place, you know, then okay, everything will be good, you know, I'll have like a new experience, you know. So it goes to this guy, he goes and like travels to like Japan or whatever, you know, and he's like, wow, everything's so new here or whatever, and he just decides like, oh well, you know, forget about going back to SanDiego. I'm just gonna stay in Japan. Everything's new here, you know, and then soon enough he becomes a regular in Japan, you know, and kind of like the same thing happens, you know. He kind of starts to get sick of what he's doing, you know, and so. What this particular comic, what it presented as the solution to this problem of kind of boredom or lack of satisfaction with our everyday lives, was this idea of gratitude. And it's like, okay, I may have to do quite, you know, same thing every day. I may drive to work in the same car. I may see the same people every day. I may have to eat similar food every day, you know, whatever, you know. But but if I'm grateful for it, then there's a certain special flavor to it. There's a certain, you actually get more satisfaction from it, you know. So the devotee, he understands that all this food, all his resources in this world, they're actually coming from Krishna. You know, it's not like Prabhupada gave the example, you know, like, okay, give the example, you're manufacturing something, right? Like you're manufacturing what, like, you know, say, Prabhupada, there was a famous morning walk, devotees like to quote, where Prabhupada, he was talking to this glass manufacturer, you know, and the man was making this glass, you know, and Prabhupada was making the point, you know, where are you making the glass from, you know, and the man's like, oh, you know, I'm making it from sand, you know, and then he said, oh, where's the sand coming from? This guy was kind of pious, so he said, oh, from Bhagavan, you know. So it's the point, you know, where do all our resources that we have, where are they coming from? They're coming from Krishna. So there's actually a nice little section I like to read to kind of explain this point. I found this. This is in the Bhagavatam 2nd canto. This is a conversation between Lord Brahma, kind of the deputed agent for creating the universe, kind of like the universal architect. I think most of you know here. I think everyone here, as far as I see, are familiar faces. So this is actually this is from a conversation that Lord Brahma is having with his son, Narada Muni. So let me just pull it up here. Okay. Okay, so this is from Srimad Bhagavatam 2:6-23. Okay. So this is Brahma speaking. When I was born from the abdominal lotus flower of the Lord Mahavishnu, the great person, I had no ingredients for sacrificial performances except for the bodily limbs of the great personality of Godhead. So I just read a section of the purport here. Okay. Okay. So I'll just read this section of the purport. So the Lord says in the Bhagavad Gita, Aham sarvasya parvo mata sarvam prabhartate. Everything is made of my bodily limbs, and I am therefore the original source of all creations. The impersonalists argue that there is no use in worshipping the Lord when everything is nothing but the Lord himself. The personalist, however, worships the Lord out of a great sense of gratitude, utilizing the ingredients born out of the bodily limbs of the Lord. The fruits and flowers are available from the body of the earth, yet Mother Earth is worshipped by the sensible devotee with ingredients born from the earth. Similarly, Mother Ganges is worshipped by the water of the Ganges, and yet the worshipper enjoys the result of such worship. Worship of the Lord is also performed by the ingredients born from the bodily limbs of the Lord, and yet the worshipper, who is himself a part of the Lord, achieves the result of the devotional service to the Lord. While the impersonalist wrongly concludes that he is the Lord himself, the personalist, out of a great gratitude, worships the Lord in devotional service, knowing perfectly well that nothing is different from the Lord. The devotee therefore endeavors to apply everything in the service of the Lord, because he knows that everything is the property of the Lord, and that no one can claim anything as one's own. This perfect conception of oneness helps the worshipper in being engaged in his loving service, whereas the impersonalist, being falsely puffed up, remains a non-devotee forever, without being recognized by the Lord. Kind of an intense last sentence there. Anyways. Okay. So, kind of going back to this point of gratitude. So the devotee, he understands that whatever resources that he has, they're coming from Krishna. So actually, the devotee, he should be very humble in his offerings. You know, he shouldn't think, oh, Krishna, I brought you this very nice, I brought you this very nice rice, and I brought you this very nice doll, and wow, I'm so good, and you better accept it, Krishna. I spent all this time for you, That's not really the attitude of the devotee. Because the devotee understands, hey, I'm not going to get any money without Krishna. Krishna even says in the Bhagavad Gita that I'm the power of digestion. I can't even digest this without Krishna, I can't move my arm without Krishna. So the devotee, in that way, he should be humble. And Krishna, he's served by hundreds of thousands of goddesses of fortune. I'm sure they're better cooks than I am. What's he need my food for? But no, Krishna, he says that if you offer with love and devotion, then he'll accept it. So this is Krishna's special mercy to his devotees. I was just hearing Prabhupada in a lecture today. Someone was asking Prabhupada. They asked Prabhupada, "Oh, what is your relationship with Krishna?" And in this instance, he said, "Oh, like father and son. That Krishna is the supreme father, and we're his part and parcel. So the relationship is like father and son." He said, "The son, in one sense, he's not different from the father. Son's coming from the father's body, father and mother's body. But also, you can understand the son is different. So similarly, we are simultaneously one and different from Krishna. We're all made of the same substance. Just like in a happy family and a healthy family, the family members all cooperate and there's happiness. So similarly, when Krishna and the devotee, they live in harmony, there is an exchange of love. There is an exchange of happiness. And the impersonalists, they do not kind of understand this. But Srila Prabhupada has made it clear that for devotional service there needs to be three things. There needs to be the devotee, there needs to be Krishna, and there needs to be the devotional service itself. So this offering of food stuff, this is a perfect example. There's the devotee, he's offering the food. There's the offering itself. And then there's Krishna. So this is actually a wonderful example of a simple offering a devotional service anyone can make. So, no excuses. Anyone can do this kind of devotional service. And Srila Prabhupada made that point early in the purport, that there's no bar for anybody. That anyone can take up this kind of a simple worship. But also we should do our best to make Krishna nice offerings as much as possible within our means. If you love somebody, you try to do something nice for him. Kind of a side point. It's an important point, but it doesn't go much along with the verse. Is that at least in the beginning, and probably for most of us, it may take some time. We don't know Krishna very well. I may know my next door neighbor better than Krishna. So how do we get to this platform of wanting to please Krishna? How do I get to that platform? Because that's what Krishna wants. The Krishna only accepts because there's bhakti there. Getting this platform, wanting to please Krishna. Well, we can see from the example of the early devotees in ISKCON is they did not know a heck of a lot about Krishna, especially they had Prabhupada, but in one sense we are more fortunate than they are then, because we have all Prabhupada's books. We have so much information about Krishna, but they didn't. So how the heck were they offering food to Krishna? How do they have any love for Krishna? What's going on here? They don't even. There's no Krishna book. There wasn't even Bhagavad Gita for a long time. Prabhupada was reading out of Dr. Radha Krishna's Bhagavad Gita when he was giving classes. So how did they get to know Krishna? Well, the devotees, they did not know Krishna per se as much as maybe someone even today would, but the devotees knew Srila Prabhupada, and Srila Prabhupada, they had love for Srila Prabhupada, and Srila Prabhupada had love for Krishna, and they knew by trying to please Krishna, they'd please Srila Prabhupada. So, in the beginning of devotional service, one has to have good mentors, role models, senior devotees, whatever you want to call it, friends, any level. Someone who is more advanced or more enthusiastic in Krishna consciousness that they want to please. Just like, when I was a kid, and I did pretty well in school, but my motivation for doing well in school wasn't just like, to do well in school, but I knew it would please my parents. For school it was okay, but I didn't care that much about doing well in school in and of itself. I just knew it would please my parents. So similarly, the neophyte devotee, he should have some spiritual role model, someone they actually want to please, someone they actually want to please, someone they can get to know. In this way, although one may not have fully developed his love for Krishna, by the medium of the spiritual master, or by the medium of a senior devotee, one desires to please Krishna by pleasing them. So this is actually a very important thing. For devotees who take initiation, the devotees make vows. And by this vow, the devotee, he becomes committed in his service to Krishna and the spiritual master. And the devotee thinks, I've heard Srila Prabhupada give this example. Devotee doesn't want to do something wrong. Because he thinks, I promised this. I don't want to do anything wrong. I don't want to do anything wrong which would displease my spiritual master. And actually, pleasing the spiritual master is the way one pleases Krishna. We sing this every day in the morning, that yasya prasada bhagavat prasada yasya prasadam nadagitu gopi. By pleasing the spiritual master, Krishna is pleased. And without pleasing the spiritual master, there's no way Krishna is going to be pleased. Now, the spiritual master and Krishna, they're both speaking the same thing. There's no contradiction between the two of them. But the idea is the spiritual master is there. He is there. They can give you personal instruction, personal inspiration. They can check up on you. Krishna's not going to come check up on you. Hey, are you offering your food? Are you chanting your rounds? Are you associating with devotees? Are you reading the books? Krishna's not going to knock on your door and say that, you know. It'd be nice if he did. He was doing that when Lord Chaitanya was around, but he was doing that as Lord Chaitanya. He'd send his disciples to your door, knock knock. You should chant Hare Krishna, but but you know, generally speaking, he's not checking out, like, you know, Krishna's not physically coming and checking on his devotees. So he sends his devotees to do that, actually. His devotees are his agents that are meant to keep people engaged in Krishna consciousness, engaged in these loving services to the Lord. So for those of us who are a little more senior devotees as well, it's important that we try to engage others in the process of this Krishna consciousness movement as much as possible. You know, we're not going out like trying to convert people or something, but what we're trying to do is actually give people happiness. You know, the idea is that if you perform sacrifice for Krishna, if you do the Sankirtan Yajna, Krishna will be pleased, and therefore you'll be pleased. It's not a sectarian thing. You know, it's not limited to any time, space, person, whatever. It's something we should give to everybody. So devotees shouldn't think, oh, this person can take to Krishna consciousness, and this person can't take to Krishna consciousness. You know, it's often, I wouldn't say it's often, but it's sometimes, you know, very unlikely people they'll take to Krishna consciousness. There's a famous devotee, I think it was Guru Kripa, I could be wrong, where his first contact with the devotees was wanting to beat them up. You know, just, and here he is now some famous devotee. You know, like, you know, it's, you don't know they know who's going to become a devotee. You know, he didn't actually end up beating the devotees up. He got he didn't go that far, but that was his motivation at first. You know, so we shouldn't. This devotional service, it's for everybody. The example that's often given is Magrari the hunter, who is a kind of a pretty nasty guy, nasty hunter, but by the mercy of Narada Muni, he became a devotee. You know. Now, just as, yeah. So I guess that's the point, that anyone, any background can become a devotee. And also, kind of on that level, especially in our neophyte position, we should not judge a devotee based on his background. You know, oh, here's a poor devotee, here's a rich devotee, here's a clean devotee, here's a, you know, whatever. You know, we should try to look past that and see the essence that this person is actually coming to Krishna consciousness, actually trying to serve Krishna, trying to do something spiritual. So we should try to help them overcome their shortcomings rather than focus on them. Okay. So we have some time here, if this clock is right. It is about 6:45. I'll open up to questions, comments, discussions. I'd like to hear from you. Otherwise, it's just me sitting here. You know. Anyone have anything? Yeah. 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 Well, okay. So I'll repeat the question, because he's asking a little bit more of a detailed question, but this is actually applicable to many people. Some people here have deities at home. Is what he's asking is that, okay, what if we have to go out somewhere and we can't offer the food stuff to the deity, or we can't do the worship as proper as we like to? And there's different ways of doing this. Generally, the standard with deity worship is utmost care should be taken that the worship should be regularly maintained as much as possible. You know, and that before one takes up the practice of deity worship, one should keep this into consideration. And that I'll continue. I'll answer your question, but I'm just making the point. And that also, whatever standard one kind of sets for the deities, wherever at his home or whatever, that standard should be maintained and not decreased. You know, but you know, there are travel needs and needs like that. So there's kind of different ways of dealing with it. One way, if possible, the deities can be sent to someone else who has, like, if it's a longer travel or something like that. I've seen devotees do this, where they'll give their deities to another person who takes care of their deities as well. You know, say someone is regularly offering their deities prasadam at home. You know, you could give them take your deities over there, and they could share. You know, I've seen that done regularly. This way, the deities are taken care of and not neglected. You know, also, you know, the worship can be changed a little bit for that day. Like, say if you're leaving early for work or something, I would think you could offer the food a little early, or, you know, or it could be abbreviated. You know, say you can't offer him a whole lunch, but you could offer him something. You know, you could offer him at least a little fruit or something. You know, so, and then also is the option of, like, you know, putting them to sleep for a little bit. But this isn't. I can't give a overall general solution to every circumstance. You know. Balaram, you had something? Okay. Yeah. Well, as devotees of Krishna, at least if you're trying to accept Bhagavad Gita, like, we just start there for a second. If you're trying to accept Bhagavad Gita, Krishna, he says it himself, that, okay, you should accept a guru, you should serve him humbly, you know, you should do that. So this is Krishna telling you, okay, if I'm trying to approach God, why would I approach him in a different way than he tells me to? I'm actually, you know, that in one sense that is directly. I'm approaching him directly how God says I want to do. You know, there's another thing that I thought of right when you said that, was that it's explained one needs a guru so someone can pull your ear. You know, so I was kind of mentioning that a little bit earlier. Is that, okay? I could be trying to serve Krishna very nicely, but because I'm imperfect, I could go astray. You know, so it very much behooves one to do that. Then also, people have this idea, I can approach God directly, but this is kind of and there's something there, but you know, can I become a doctor directly? Can I become a lawyer directly? Can I become a teacher directly? Like, all these, like, regular things, there's a system for it. You learn from other teachers, doctors, lawyers. There's a board, you know. There's a whole system set up, and it's not simply done by your own. I declare myself, rubber stamp myself lawyer, you know. I rubber stamp myself self-realized, you know. And it just doesn't work. You know, Krishna, he gives I was just reading the verse that Arjuna asked Krishna, you know, what are the symptoms of the self-realized soul? This is in Bhagavad Gita 4th chapter. And Krishna, he explains the symptoms of the self-realized soul, that they're going to be like this, you're going to be like that, you're going to be like this. You know. So there are certain symptoms of the self-realized soul, and there is a certain process in how to get there. That one should approach through the guru. One should approach through those who are already close to Krishna. Get something. Well, one thing that was there, I will say, there was a formal declaration by Arjuna that said, "Oh Krishna, like, you know, I don't really know what to do anymore. Like, we could talk as friends all we want, and get nowhere. So at this point, I'm accepting you as my guru." So there was, maybe not an initiation per se, but there was a formal statement of accepting him as a guru, as a spiritual master. So that was there. And also, I would question as to how many of us are on the level of Arjuna. Arjuna was a personal associate of Krishna. And also, you look at Arjuna's character. Arjuna, he was a very, anyway, just even on the material level, he was a very, like, brave, courageous, like, very amazing person. You know, he's like going to battle against like thousands of people, and he's not afraid. If you look at the Bhagavad Gita, there's no question. Arjuna has all these like kind of misgivings or whatever, but it's not like, oh, like, what if I get hurt in the battle and it hurts, or what if I die? You know, Arjuna's not thinking anything like that. He's thinking about everyone else. You know. Anyways, kind of back to us, is that this ceremony of initiation, all this pomp, it's actually for our own benefit. It gives us gives a more of an impact to actually the commitment we're taking. And actually, there isn't always all this pomp. I know several disciples of different spiritual masters in ISKCON, where for whatever reason, due to traveling considerations or whatever, there was practically no initiation ceremony whatsoever. You know, there was, you know, maybe some short yagya or something like very small, you know, practically no ceremony. You know, so the initiation is not depending on some pomp and ceremony, you know, but also we didn't have the ceremonies, where it'd be the prasadam. You know, where's the chance for loving devotion? Actually, I made this point. I was speaking in ISKCON Salem at Govardhan Puja. You know, big festival, you know. So much food for Krishna, you know. But what this festival really does, and you'll see this maybe upcoming for Janmashtami and Balaram Pranim, is what these festivals really do. Is festival means lots of service for Krishna. You know, the temple's got to be decorated, boga's got to be bought, food's got to be cooked. You know, so many different things have to go in for a festival. There's kind of extra endeavor for Krishna on that day. So similarly, if you have like a little bit of pomp for the initiation ceremony or whatever, there's chance for extra service to Krishna on that day. And everyone gets to get involved. That satisfy you? Somewhat? Okay. Okay, so I know the verse here. I think it's I think I said chapter 4 earlier, but I think it's actually chapter 14. That was my mistake. Let's see. I looked up this verse earlier. Okay, so they actually was chapter 14. Yeah, not chapter 4. My mistake. Okay. So in the previous verse, Arjuna actually asked. Previous verse, Arjuna says, "O my dear Lord, by which symptoms is one known who is transcendental to these three modes? What is his behavior, and how does he transcend the modes of nature?" So Krishna says here, "O son of Pandu, he who does not hate illumination, attachment, and delusion when they are present, or long for them when they disappear, who is unwavering and undisturbed through all these reactions of the material qualities, remaining neutral and transcendental, knowing that the modes alone are active, who is situated in the self, and who regards alike happiness and distress, who looks upon a lump of earth, a stone, and a piece of gold with an equal eye, who is equal toward the undesirable, who is equal toward the desirable and undesirable, who is steady, situated equally well in praise and blame, honor and dishonor, who treats alike both friend and enemy, and who has renounced all material activities. Such a person is said to have transcended the modes of nature." So just kind of to summarize quickly, someone who is transcendental, someone who is on the transcendental platform, he accepts whatever is favorable to his advancement in Krishna consciousness, even if it may be at the moment displeasing to him, or it may require some difficulty. And he rejects anything which is not favorable to his Krishna consciousness, to serving Krishna, even if the things that he might have accepted may have had some immediate pleasing result. You know, so the devotee, he accepts what's favorable for Krishna consciousness, and he rejects everything which is not favorable for Krishna consciousness. You know, so this is the symptom of a self-realized soul. And, you know, there's much more to it, and there's a purport here, and I can give a whole class on that, but I chose to speak on the other thing. Does that help somewhat? You can, yeah, the verse, if you want to look at the purport, it's 14:22 to 25 in the Bhagavad Gita. Okay, maybe one more question, otherwise we'll have kirtan. Yeah. Mm. 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 Well, this verse here will kind of give a good explanation of it. What she's asking is what are the qualifications of bona fide guru? There's so many gurus and whatever, so many gurus. How do you pick one? She's kind of asking along those lines. This is a kind of a common question here. So this verse kind of explains some of the qualities that a guru should have. Srila Prabhupada, in this connection, he said that the guru is the one who's most addicted to Krishna. So one should actually judge for oneself that are all the guru's activities dovetailed in such a way that they're dedicated to serving God or Krishna. One should practically judge that, It's not like I sit on the Vyasasana very nicely here, and then I go outside and do all kinds of nonsense, That is not guru. Guru, he's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, Krishna. If you look at Srila Prabhupada, and I've listened, and devotees will say this, that, Srila Prabhupada, he was the same sitting on the Vyasasana, same sitting, in his room, always talking about Krishna. So before one decides to take initiation from a guru, one should see that his activities are consistent. That the guru, he is acting the same way he says, and that wherever he is, he's performing in some ways the same activities. He's always trying to serve Krishna. He's always trying to serve God. This way one is at least, one can also judge by the disciples as well. Anyway, I don't want to get too much in the story, but Giriraj Swami, when he was looking for a guru, he was looking at the different disciples of the gurus too, and seeing all these disciples, they aren't very happy. All these disciples, they're just talking about all the food they missed since they joined the temple. I'm not sure I want to go to this guru. So one could also judge by the disciples. How is their behavior? Okay, so I think we're out of time here. Did you? Yeah, we're out of time. I can answer over Prashadam or something. I'm sorry. All right.
Everyone, if you could kindly